Hi, everybody. Today we're going to go over the SalesForce website, and we're going to run through a pretty typical scenario, which is coming onto a project, and we're trying to look at how we can make some changes without having to drastically rebuild everything. So although it's very enticing to rebuild and build a brand new layout and all this crazy stuff, typically it's not always the best ROI, right? Because there's a lot of development time involved in that process. There's a lot of design work in that process. There's a lot of steps, right? Versus taking what already exists and seeing what minor changes can be done to enhance the overall user experience. Now, familiarity with the actual code or just coding in general it makes this evaluation process much easier and, of course, more accurate as far as estimates go, because you have a sense for what is going to be involved in what you're requesting of the developers. So with this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take SalesForce, because as I was on the website recently, there was just a number of UX improvements I saw that I think could be addressed. And so this right here is just an overall quick evaluation. And in a later video, I'm going to be taking those notes that I'm providing and building it out into a prototype on Figma. So let's go ahead and run through what I would end up doing if given the opportunity. So first things first, this is the home page for Salesforce. Now, when you're on the home page, or when you're actually at this company website, we really want to consider who is the customer, right? And who is coming to the website the most? What are the expectations? What is the most common reason for visiting the website, right? Where does most of the traffic come from? Now, these are all questions that UX research would find out, and I don't have that data, but I can make a couple of assumptions, right? So, being that Salesforce deals a lot with business to business and business management, and obviously producing sales, they have a CRM and all that fun stuff. I'm going to assume that I'm coming here probably as either a returning customer looking for additional information about Salesforce. Maybe I'm trying to debug something, or trying to find out if they have certain um, integrations, right? Or I'm a business owner and I'm considering Salesforce, right? And so what I am is I'm a lead. In fact, I'm possibly a warm lead, as not only am I visiting Salesforce, investigating, but I am actively investigating to consider purchasing. So I'm somebody who's interested possibly purchasing or being involved with Salesforce, and I'm currently seeking that out. So we want to make it as easy as possible to provide that information in a very wonderful experience for the user, so that when they leave the website versus the competition or any of the other alternatives, it just feels like so much easier on Salesforce versus some of the other websites, right? And Salesforce, of course, themselves, they want to give off this impression. They want to give off the impression that, hey, we're an online company. We know the cloud. We know digital stuff. Like, that is us, right? So we are the one you want to go to, right? We stick out because we just have this just general presence wherever we are. And in that sense, the website is very much going to be like a business card, right? There is an experience that we're trying to harness. It's not just a website, because right now, what makes this website different from any other website that provides a similar service, right? Aesthetically, there's a consistency that goes across all the material. It's already been established, so we don't want to make any crazy changes there. But visually, if you think about it, there's not a lot of interaction. It's relatively, just kind of dry, and if it didn't have such beautiful artwork, this would be a lot less enticing for any user. And at a certain point, if you've been through enough websites, you've seen something like this over and over enough times, where yes, it's legible on certain things and it's clean and feels professional, but it doesn't really stick out in any sort of meaningful way. And for a company that wants to establish themselves as the forefront and the leaders, we do want to stick out a little bit. So let's go ahead and see where we can make some changes here. Okay, so I'll talk a little bit about web accessibility as I go through this process. And the very first thing, as I scroll through this really fast, is I do notice that there are some spots where it is difficult to read. So for example, virtual events is kind of difficult to read, as well as these hover states are just color changes. And starting with the navigation, these hover states are just color changes, and there's no decorative change, right? And here's actually what happens. And it's an issue not only for web accessibility, but also an issue just for everybody. So upon my first visit, I quickly saw, okay, products, industries, and I assumed products. There was going to be a listing of products. For whatever reason, there isn't. Okay, that's fine. But the thing is that I assumed it was going to be a drop down. Oh, okay. No drop down, no drop down, no drop down. And I'm kind of lingering because I'm not sure based on the wording if there should be something additional, right? But that's fine. But as I scroll over here, boom, drop down, boom, drop down. So if the user quickly products, industries, right, learning, company, sales, and then they, drop down, what ends up happening is the user is already thinking, oh, did I not hold over here long enough? And this happened to me. Did I not hold over this long enough? Oh, no. Okay, it's just a button, right? So this here, I know it sounds silly, but this indicates to me that there is drop-down menus in the navigation, and that perhaps I just didn't hold down or wait long enough, because we've all had experiences in the past where we've been on a website where the drop-down menu didn't show up right away, right? There was a delay, or you didn't hover long enough, right? Or maybe you weren't quite on the spot you needed to be for the hover area. So with that, I return back, right? I'm already in the navigation and I'm backing and forthing, and I'm actually spending much more time in the navigation than you would think I would. Once again, a lot of this is being done mentally at a very mental level, very, very small scale, but this is things that they're kind of noticed, right? And these are little itty bitty pain points that cumulatively will start to add up, right? And from the very start, we want to have a good user experience, right? We want the people to really be very clear about what's happening. So with that, a couple of things. So right now, it's very subtle, the color change, and we need really just for web accessibility, as well as just anybody, more of an indicator. So we need more decoration. Now the login has an excellent setup where we change the background, we give it the button indicator. I would go ahead and just, mimic that over here. You can make it, or you can just do an underline. So the indication is that it is different than these ones, right? You can make it so that it is a dark blue, and it highlights the area around it with an underline, or we can use this green or purple, something that indicates it's a button, right? It's an anchor, right? We want to give that indicator it's a button, and not a drop down. And over here, when these things pop, we want to give the that's actually something where, from an animation standpoint, we can just drop in some CSS animation, and it would be much more helpful to be a clear indicator that that it's sliding down and not just popping up, because this also gives an insinuation that if you're not necessarily over quite the right spot, maybe that's why you missed the pop-up, right? So you got the hover, but maybe you need to hold longer, you need to be a certain spot above or below. It sounds interesting, it sounds crazy, but these are all things that are relatively pain points that should stick out. So moving on from just this first part of the navigation, so here I see a search icon. I hover over it, I get an indicator that, hey, this is something you can interact with. Now, my immediate expectation is, oh, well, there's no input box, but clearly there's space for an input box for the search. Seems obvious. But when I click on this, instead of getting that input box, it navigates me to a new page. And not only is it a new page, but the input box is over here, and my cursor doesn't even start there right away. So that's not necessarily a great process to have. I'm taking multiple steps to do something, and anytime people see this kind of layout, this does not feel very helpful, right? Now that's a separate process, a separate page. We could talk about that design separately, but we're not going to. Instead, my simple suggestion is going to be that there be an input box right here that either is always present, or when we click on this, it pops out the input box. And then obviously we would have an indicator to enter, and then we can search that way, right? So one of those two options, but the current selection of making this simply be an anchor that navigates should not be the way it works, right? If for specific reasons, when we look at the code, so looking at the code, I don't see any particular reason why it has to be this way. But let's just go ahead and make the assumption that it needs to. Then we need to change this icon. So maybe instead of that, it says, the word search or go to search or something like that, right? Go with the glass icon. That's fine. You can do something like that. Okay, so continuing on, contact us and the phone number. This is actually just kind of so first of all, the contact us being underlined. Okay, I like the idea of having the phone number, but I don't think it has to be underneath like this. If anything, you can put it side by side. Heck, you can even put it right here in all this giant empty space, since you're not using that empty space anyways. I think that's fine. Contact us should be like one of these icons where it's actually something you would hover or clicked on. So you can just do that instead. These guys, like I said, they're fine the way they are, but I would make that so it would slide down, so as an indication that once again, that these are the exception. They do actually have drop downs, right? Another thing I started to notice is that as I hover over a lot of these buttons, there's just subtle color changes a majority of the time as I hover over them. This one has a nice contrast, the try for free. But, here, these two, you can barely see a difference. There's no additional decorative changes. There's no shadow, no large color contrast. We really need to see that color contrast for web accessibility, as well as just having it much more clear that this is something you can interact with. Also, I would recommend, just from an aesthetic standpoint, instead of having just boom pop, we should not have, once again, a CSS transition so that we can do the gradual slow gradation change. That subtle fade of the color change makes a huge difference as far as professionalism goes and making things just feel a lot nicer. And this is kind of a nitpicking, but same thing over here with the logo, the SalesForce logo. I recommend that it just be a little bit bigger, and that just happens to be because of the nature of the white on blue. That contrast is hard to see. It does make the logo difficult to read, and I understand that we're on the SalesForce website and that the person might already recognize the SalesForce logo. But once again, if I am a new or potential lead, I might have only known about SalesForce. In fact, this happened to me in the past. I heard of SalesForce, but I didn't know their logo. I was not familiar with their logo yet, and their logo has actually changed a little bit here and there, so over the years. So anyways, I would just make it larger so that SalesForce is more legible. This way, when they see it again, it'll be top of mind for reference when they're doing their comparison, right? We want to be able for them to easily recognize SalesForce, that logo, so that if it is that small, they know that that's the SalesForce logo. So here, Dreamforce Logo, I can't even read it. It's so small. But I'm able to indicate that, oh, it has that kind of SalesForce icon. It's related. Here, this is common with a lot of websites. This notification area. Typically, it's because the client would like to notify the users or customers about something, right? And that's fine. That's pretty commonplace now, and it's not at all rare. I do recommend that there be a way to exit out. So have a little X box to close it. It's just an aesthetic thing, but a lot of people, if it does not pertain to me, I don't want to see it, right? I think of it, as just kind of like taking up visual space. And I know it sounds kind of weird, but as you're scrolling through and you get back up or whatever, like you just don't want to see it anymore, right? It should be gone, right? It feels a little bit like an ad, and that's an issue that happens a lot with websites. Is these notifications or pop-ups show up and they're a part of the website. They're not actual ads, but users have experienced ads so much on websites, and they've been to spammy websites. So they really, the more power that they feel that they have in regards to those ads that exist on their website, the better. So I would recommend that this have an X out, because all you're doing is notifying them. Was I notified? Yes. Does it apply to me? Nope. Close, right? Otherwise, I'll keep it open, right? I'll keep it open if I want to. So same thing with this logo. If it's important to see that logo, then they can make it a little bit bigger. But if not, it's not the end of the world. I understand for practical reasons that might not be the case. Another thing that I noticed right here is Catch the Magic of Dreamforce, live on SalesForce Plus, September 20th. We need to change the wording on all of this. It's a lot of stuff, and I know we're trying to get inside there and get all the key buzzwords in, like SalesForce Plus, probably something they want to advertise. But live on SalesForce Plus, Catch the Magic of Dreamforce, it's probably like their motto. September 20th to 22nd, register for free. There's just way too much stuff, right? In fact, because just look at it, just like glance, like you're glancing through this, right? And it's just that probably doesn't apply to me, right? Too much. So we're actually going to go to this page really quickly. Okay, cool. All right. So, okay. Yep. I see the Salesforce, Trailblazers. The world's largest software conference is streaming live. Okay. I'd probably say something closer to along the lines of, world's largest software conference, streaming world's largest software conference, September 20th, 2022, right? And then just put that little, put a pipe to separate it out. That's something that you could mess around with a few different pieces, but as far as text goes, yeah, like let's just quickly change that, because it's just way too much text. So let's go ahead and see this. So anyways, but I would change register for free into a button, so that you can go ahead and have a little button here, and that makes this much easier to read. So let's just assume that it was like this. And I'd probably change it from register for free to like free registration or something. All right. Anyways, so continuing down, whatever. Okay. So next part is this: the customer 360 drive growth cost savings. This is all fine. Nothing wrong with that. Now, one thing that I think would be pretty cool that could be done across all these guys, right? All these little pieces. You could definitely, depending on what they're building out of. I don't know. Let's see what they're building on. So we're taking a look at the code, so I can actually get an indication of what's possibly being built on top of. We can basically take an item like this, consistency, so that we can go ahead and have a foreground and a background, build something out that can be used over and over again, repeatedly. But even if not, the point is, I was thinking of having a slight parallax effect, right? So if we can get a slight parallax of this background, this background, right? That would be really nice if this foreground image and these circles can be slightly off when we're scrolling, so that the foreground, oh, shoot, sorry, so that this character can be slightly changing while we're scrolling. Okay, same thing here, slight change while we scroll. That would be nice. That'd be a really good visual thing that adds a lot of value. It's subtle and it would go a long way. Something else that'd be, like I said, colors, etc. You could also, now this might be overkill, but once again, imagine that you're the customer coming here and you want to know, well, how does it relate to services? How does it relate to marketing, commerce, platforms, Slack, all that stuff? These are these words and icons, logos were chosen because of their marketability, because they know that these are key words that somebody coming here is looking for. As well as, they really want to push this with the demo. So what I would say is I would actually make it so that, these are each an anchor. So, an anchor, a button, right? So that you can basically hover over, and this icon should grow a little and basically be clickable. So when you click it, it navigates you to a page talking about commerce. It navigates you to the industries page. It navigates you to the service page, the Slack integration page, the MuleSoft, or whatever the case is. And if you don't have an exact page for that, there's an appropriate page where it would fit in. So there's that. What's new at Salesforce? I think that once again, hover state wise, when I hover over this, I need something like I need something. This entire thing should have a border around it, a color change, grow a little, something indicating that it's clickable outside of just the cursor changing to a pointer finger. Also, this is difficult to read. It's very small, so it's probably not very web accessible. Learn how Salesforce products, it's fine. Okay, these cards, similar situation where I would probably consider tweaking the wording and the button, right? So it could be small business, so sell smarter and provides support faster in a single app, right? So what we could probably do is, if you need to hide with ARIA, like a certain span. Yeah, so you'll see here in the label it just says watch demo. Well, if I'm using a screen reader, it's going to say watch demos, watch demos, watch demos, learn more, learn more. It doesn't mean anything to me, right? So like what does that mean? So how about like watch small business demo, right? Learn more about small businesses, right? All that kind of stuff, right? And what you could actually probably do is with this learn more is probably ditch the learn more and probably incorporate that into the actual text right here. That says something along the lines of learn more about how our small business provides yada yada yada, right? You can do that, and then you can make this entire thing clickable, and or you can have the watch demo situation. It's a little bit unclear to me because which one of these you want them to click on, because they might just end up going to the same place. So if I go to watch demo, okay, so so there's that if I do watch demo. But if I go to learn more, it brings me to a page about that, which has probably right here the demo is my assumption, right? Or the video, right? Okay, so yeah, I would look at some options for just retweaking this little bit down here. But nonetheless, what we would want to do is make it so that this entire thing is hoverable, clickable, and indicating. Oh, since this thing popped up, I might as well talk about it now. Okay. since this thing popped up, I might as well talk about it right now. Okay, so this guy here, so these chat things, they're pretty common now, right? So they exist all the time now. They're not super uncommon to see, but here we have a no thanks, which is good because then it'll get rid of it, right? It does feel kind of addy, right? You know, it's a little bit intrusive. People really aren't uh, people at this point are familiar with them enough. So I don't think you need the no problem, chat with our sales experts or call us on it, right? Here's the phone number. Again, I just don't know if all of this is a little bit redundant at that point, because here's a phone number, here's a phone number. This phone number is for help. It's not the same one as the contact. So, but if I wanted to reach somebody at the contact, I don't know, right? You know, you could also make it so that when I, you know, click on it for let's chat, then it could have the phone number indicator there, right? Or it would just be the, you know, the person's picture, but, you know, do you really need the person's picture? It could just be, you know, let's chat, and then it could also have the phone number there. I would consider redesigning this, just tweaking it so that it's, you know, it's smaller, takes up less space. Still include the no thanks, but the no thanks takes up so much extra work. You could just have the X so that you can exit out. So let's just say no thanks. Yeah, I would probably just start it with the let's chat situation. I don't think people really need to get that giant starting point, right? And then if you did click on it, okay, yep, all right, this is one of the built-in plugins, so I get it. You're a little limited. Well, at the very minimum, I know you should be able to make it so that yes. Oh my gosh. Okay. Just let me close the chat. There we go. See, already pain point. Okay, so I would just start it here. People are familiar with it at this point. Okay, so we've been through this section. Next section. Okay, find a solution. Help explore now. It's fine, right? Okay, what is a CRM? Okay, so here we have some video series, right? Webinar. Research. Looks like they have a good amount of video. I would suggest that right here in this section, what is a CRM? Well, already I know that if I click on this, it's going to navigate me to a page. And when it navigates me to the page, it's just a bunch of text. Huh. Okay. Here we go. What is a CRM? This is much more helpful. Right now, I did notice that they did a wonderful job because they include the closed captions for the scripting, which is good for web accessibility purposes. I would take this video and make it so that it instead is what shows up here. You know, just put a little triangle right here, and boom, play that video, pop up that video. I would just have a video, you know, situation so that we don't always need to be navigating across all these different pages. Especially because at the very minimum, we know we have a video series situation and webinars, so there should at least be that option. Okay, let's see here. I would also argue, you know, this tree stuff situation, you could have a parallax effect once again, so it kind of, you know, these things kind of come out from the trees and then they stop and then, you know, keep going, right? I would try and get some movement going on between this section here and this section down here. Just a little bit of movement. It would really go a long way in adding value. Long way. It does not take very much. Okay, so these things, sim indicators, I imagine the class names and all that stuff structurally is the exact same thing. So I think once you change one, it'll change in a lot of places. Here, this entire card should be clickable, and have a hover state. And right now it's just the little icon, just this little bit of icon space is the only thing that's clickable clickable. Not only that, but it only has the pointer as an indicator tool. So that needs to be modified as well. That'll change for all of them. Okay, same thing here. It's only on the text, and there's literally no indication, no underline, no decorative changes, nothing. This entire card should be what's clicked on, not just that. And it should kind of have a change of state. See all groups. Okay, like I said, parallax effect on this little bit here would go so far. Let me tell you, it would look great. And it would not be asking very much. This already, right? Let's assume that the div, right? I'm assuming here. Yeah. Okay, cool. Right. So here we got a div, we've got the image. Yeah, okay, it's just an image in there. So we can modify this, switch it out. So we got a foreground, a background piece, and then just parallax that a little bit. I mean, come on. Same thing here, same situation. At that point, you're dealing with a consistency that you can just have the class name styles of, foreground and background would be what I would change. So the next thing we're going to go ahead and do is on a separate video, we'll go ahead and make this build out some of these changes that I talked about in Figma as a prototype, and get a better sense for comparing between this and what I suggested, and see if what my suggestions are, if it really does bring that kind of significant value. We can kind of make a little bit of an estimate as far as how difficult it would be to implement, prioritize as far as, what would be the most cost efficient thing to do as far as bringing it to the developers to go ahead and do, and go ahead and discuss things from there. Thank you guys for watching. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.